Hey guys, it's Dr. Justin Marcagiani here. Today we're going to be doing a video on stomach irritation. Is your stomach irritated because there's bacterial overgrowth or too much stomach acid? This is a question I get quite frequently, and we're going to dive into the roots of it. All right, before we do, please smash that like button. It really helps the YouTube algorithm, helps more people find the information that I am putting out there. Also, put your comment down below. Let me know your experience in dealing with stomach irritation and stomach burning problems. All right, let's dive in. So first off, why is your stomach burning? Why is your stomach irritated? So a couple of philosophies out of the gates is conventional medicine's going to say there's too much acidity, there's too much burning in that stomach because you have too much stomach acid. So the common solution is some type of proton pump inhibitor, omeprazole, Prilosec, Nexium, maybe some type of antacid, Tums, type of calcium bicarbonate, something that's very alkalizing to bring down that stomach irritation. Now, why is your stomach irritated? Well, a lot of times that gut lining is inflamed. Now, why is that gut lining inflamed? The first thing is bad foods. This could be foods that are allergenic, whether it's grains or dairy or processed junky omega-6 fatty acids, lots of processed refined sugar. One, these foods can be inflammatory and create an immune response due to food allergies. A lot of times these foods are processed and they have excess carbohydrate and food and essentially excipients in there that are going to feed bad bugs and cause them to overgrow and cause bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Now, what this bacteria will do, one, it's inflammatory, it will thin out that gut lining. Two, it can actually decrease your body's ability to make stomach acid. So the more stressed or inflamed your gut is, the sympathetic nervous system is activated. The sympathetic and the parasympathetics are on a seesaw. So the parasympathetics are the rest and digest. Think of it as the brake on your car for your nervous system. And the parasympathetics are that's the parasympathetics. It's the brake. It's the relaxation, the calm, the digestion. The go, 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 the gas pedal is going to be the sympathetics. And so it's kind of like when you're driving, right? Typically, you're going to be hitting the brake, but not the gas. And when you're hitting the gas, you're not hitting the brake, right? You're not going to be using 2 feet at once, only 1 foot. So it's kind of like a seesaw. If we activate the parasympathetics, your sympathetics are down. If we activate the sympathetics, we're stressed, we have inflammation, food, bacteria. We're not going to have good acidity. When we don't have good acidity, acidity also provides, it's like a disinfectant for the stomach. A lot of bad bugs do not like acidity. Acidity essentially disinfects. It provides a really good environment that prevents a lot of these bad bugs from growing. So we don't have that good acidity. It's like using the outdoor picnic table and you want to spread some cleaner on it. Maybe it's apple cider vinegar or some kind of a natural citrus oil to clean it. Well, if you don't spread that acidic apple cider vinegar or citrus oil, you're not going to have the ability to clean off that picnic table, right? So think of your natural picnic table inside your intestines. You don't have the ability to disinfect it when you don't have good acidity. Acidity is a very good disinfectant. That's why you see citrus oils or apple cider vinegars, right? They're all used as cleaners because they have a nice acidity to it, and that makes it harder for bacteria to grow. Very, very simple why women are very prone to yeast infections and UTIs when they're taking birth control pills is because of the hormones. They actually have an effect on alkalizing the vaginal area, and that can cause more bugs to grow. So pretty common there. So big thing out of the gates, food allergies. Food allergies can drive inflammation. Also refined processed foods that convert to glucose or sugar in your body and your blood sugar. That can feed a lot of these bad bugs. The more bad bugs we have, the more that can activate our sympathetic nervous system. The more our sympathetic nervous system is activated, the less acid, the less enzymes, and then of course, as that food then works its way into the intestinal tract, then you're going to have less bile salts as well. And bile salts are also antimicrobial in a way. They have a pH of about 5 or 6 or so. I mean, they are bile salts, bile acids, so they tend to be more on the acidic side, and they do have a nice antimicrobial effect to it. So I hope that makes sense out of the gates. Again, taking acid blockers is not going to be the long-term solution. It may be a short-term solution, but not a long-term solution. Again, if your gut lining is thin, you may not be able to handle much acid. That's where you have to work with a good functional medicine practitioner to really get the inflammation out of the food, work on pre-digesting the food, not overhydrating with food because water's got a pH of 7, and if your stomach's supposed to be a pH of 1.5 to 2.5, well, you're taking that pH, you're moving it up. Also, bugs like H. pylori are common. They commonly produce urease, or I should say, they commonly produce urease, which is an enzyme that breaks down urea from protein metabolism, turns it into CO2 and ammonia. Well, CO2 is what triggers a positive breath test for H. pylori, but the ammonia component, put ammonia into Google, you'll see the pH is around 11. Well, that's very alkaline. So H. pylori can actually increase the pH of your stomach, making it less acidic and making it harder for you to digest food. And so if your gut lining's thin and you can't really tolerate much acid at all, no big deal. Work with a good functional medicine practitioner. We're going to work on diet changes, pre-digesting our food, good lifestyle changes, not overhydrating with food, maybe using more enzymes in the interim, using whatever bitters or acids we can that you can tolerate. If you have active bleeding or ulcerations, definitely stay away from any acidity at all. Again, I've seen a lot of patients in my career. I've seen thousands of patients, but I've seen a lot of patients that have actually had stomach irritation, and a little bit of acidity has made them feel better. And I've seen some smaller percent that have made them feel worse. Either way, if it makes them feel worse, we still want to see if there's some level we can tolerate without pain. But again, use pain as your guide. If you have gut pain and gut irritation from any level of acidity and you cannot continue to drop that dose, then that is not for you. We just want to focus on other herbs and other digestive supports that are non-abrasive in the meantime, and really work on a lot of good gut healing nutrients. So in my line, we typically use enzyme synergy for good enzyme support, and we would use things like GI Restore to really help with the gut lining and healing integrity with zinc and DGL and okra and glutamine and healing nutrients like aloe as well. And we may even use things like ginger to kind of naturally support good digestion. So hope that helps out of the gates. Again, this is real clinical information that I use every day with my patients in the trenches, not theoretical stuff that you hear a lot of talking heads on YouTube chat about. So I hope you guys enjoy it. If you want to click down below to reach out to myself and or my staff on Dr. J, links will be below for you guys to reach out. Let me see if there's any questions that I can help you out with. Also, thumbs up, comments below. Really appreciate it. Share with friends and family. I'm going to answer questions that deal with this topic. If it's not, I'm going to skip it. Stomach not burning, but getting pressure, slight pain near gallbladder. Listening to your videos on this, clearing things up. But what are your thoughts on a flush like a Moritz protocol? So like a gallbladder flush, I mean, you're rolling the dice. If you have any stones or anything sharp in your gallbladder and you really contract that gallbladder, it's like giving a porcupine a huge hug, right? You're just asking for it. So you're much better off working on supporting the gentle erosion of those stones if there is a stone issue by using things like phosphatidylcholine, beetroot powder, taurine. Those are all good things out of the gates, and maybe even using ox bile, maybe even using lipase to make sure you're breaking down that fat. And again, if you're having stools that are floating or excessive skid marks or streaks on the toilet seat, then you probably know there's a fat issue. You can go look at my videos on other issues from the gallbladder. If you go to the YouTube channel here and punch that in, like gallbladder or fat digestion, you'll get some good videos on that. I have a methane, SIBO, and yeast infection. What should be treated first? And what herbs are appropriate for the situation? So, I mean, with SIBO, you'd probably want to work on the SIBO, maybe H. pylori if that's there first. Yeast issues tend to be last. Again, there's a lot of overlap with those herbs, so it's more of a theoretical thing that it's going to be first. You'll typically, the herbs are going to have some crossover reactivity, so you'll still be addressing it all the time, but you're going to use herbs that tend to be more selective against bacteria than, let's say, yeast. And what herbs? I mean, it depends. I have in my line GI Clear 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Typically, when I'm addressing more SIBO issues, it's either a 1, 4, 6, or a combination. If I'm doing more yeast issues, it may be more 6, 5, and 3. 3 silver, 5 is a emulsified oil of oregano, 6 is an antibacterial that has a lot of Pardiarco in it, which is really great too. So it just depends. Probably my GI Clear 1 and 4 will be recommended. We'll put a link of recommended products below for y'all. I heard a PhD nurse say that chronic parasite infections are a normal part of a human condition. Do you agree with that? I would say no. I mean, parasites we know are a top 5 killer in third world countries. If it was just so normal, we wouldn't see it being responsible for so many deaths. And again, it's happening to people that are malnourished, right? But I mean, I think we're also pretty malnourished here. I think parasites, if you're strong at a smaller level, your body can probably handle it. But as you get weaker and more stressed, it becomes a much bigger deal, and you're going to have to work on eradicating it. I've tried doing HCl during dinner, but throat starts to burn afterwards. What could that mean? It means exactly what we chatted about in the video. Rewind it, take a look at it. Gut's thin, have to work on calming the inflammation and working on the other things I just mentioned. Okay, very good. Justin, give your input or reason why the cecum valve area becomes full of liquids, pressure, and pain every 2 to 3 hours. So, like, this is the ileocecal valve. Everyone's like, "Oh, your ileocecal valve's open," or this. That for me, I think is a nonsense situation. Not that it's not true, but when you have issues, you have to look at cause and effect. The problem is many people look at the effect of what's happening downstream, and they think that's the cause. Okay, your ileocecal valve may be open, right? Well, what's the solution? In chiropractic world, there's some manipulation you can do to it where you kind of press up at an angle, you hold it for 5 or 10 seconds, relax it, and that valve can start to close, right? But that's not the reason why it's open. It's open because of inflammation. So you have to fix all the 6 R's that I mentioned, and that will help calm down the inflammation. Hopefully that valve will start to work properly. So you always have to look at cause and effect. What's the root cause? What's the effect? And then if we treat the effect downstream with like different manipulative techniques, is it palliative or is it root cause? Is it making you feel better in the moment or is it fixing something upstream? So you always have to delineate. There's nothing wrong with doing palliative treatment. You just have to acknowledge that it's palliative and it's not root cause. That's all. Ox bile before, during, or after meal. I think during the meal is fine. I mean, before is fine too. It doesn't really matter. I don't get to that point, but I always recommend digestive support in the middle of the meal because too many patients have inflammation in their gut. And if they take something that could be a little bit abrasive and it hits their tummy, they're going to freak out. And I always want less questions and problems, not more. How do I heal my gut issues? That's a podcast question. That's not going to be a YouTube question. YouTube questions are like very specific to the point. Big, deeper questions, would be a podcast. So head over to justinhealth.com, put some of that in the search bar, and you'll get podcasts on the topic. If you feel palpitations in your stomach, feels like an eye twitching, but in my stomach, doesn't hurt, but not sure what I might need to do. I mean, that's way too broad, but in general, all the things we chatted about, getting inflammation down, making sure digestion's good, working on getting all the bugs under control, and then taking a look and making sure minerals are good. Sodium, chloride, potassium, magnesium, making sure all those are dialed in. Because if minerals are off, you could have potential little palpitations or fasciculations because your nerves aren't functioning great because those minerals aren't there. So it's always possible, but way too vague out of the gates. YouTube questions are really good for something specific, something broad. That's what the video or a podcast is for. Can one drink too much water? I drink 8 to 10 glasses a day, and sometimes my urine is dark yellow and strong. Not often white. Well, it depends. I mean, if you're taking a bunch of B vitamins, when given too much, you'll pee them out. So that's always possible. And that's fine. I don't mind peeing them out because if you're not peeing them out, you're not getting enough B vitamins, right? Odds are you aren't getting enough. And then I would say regarding water, a good half your body weight in ounces is pretty good. Some people may overconsume water because the water they're drinking doesn't have enough minerals in it. So make sure you pinch a little bit of Redmond's Real Salt or a good electrolyte formula in there. That will help provide the minerals you need, which is a lot of the times why you're craving too much water is because you're not getting enough minerals in the water. So add a little minerals in that may help your water cravings, and that may make a big difference. So that's a good starting point out of the gates. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, give me a thumbs up, comments below, reach out if you want to have more help. I'm happy to dive in with y'all and try to make